Here, what's kind of the mentality and the mindset going into this one?
Obviously, we want to continue riding a hot hand. I think we've shown that we're a good team on home ice, but we just have to translate that on the road. It's a little bit different approach. Got to keep the game a little more simple, a little bit more north-south, and really emphasize the shots. I think in the early stages of the games.
You guys talked about just the success you had on the homestand. What went right for you, especially on offense? It seems like you guys were finding some success there, especially.
I think we just try to get more traffic in front of the goalie. I think the shots, we've been really implementing in the last month, but just really trying to focusing on getting traffic in front of his eyes, taking his eyes away, and then on the other side also being there for the secondary or third opportunities around the net, and I think we've been doing a pretty good job of that lately.
And the power play keeps coming along too, and for you, especially when you're out there directing, just kind of passing and what's going on, how has that group kind of cleaned up some of the areas, and especially some of the quicker passes that a lot of the guys have been talking about?
I think we're just trying to outcompete the PK, and I think our goal is on the other side, on the PK, to outcompete the power play, and obviously we just really try to focusing on that, move faster than the PK does, really force them in uncomfortable situations, and try to strike whenever we have a chance to.
And last one for me, the Oilers are your first test on this road trip. They obviously have a lot of star power. How do you guys kind of counter that, especially on the defensive side?
Just try to defend as a five-man unit, really focusing on keeping them to the outside, eliminating chances from the inner slot, and then also just try to really eliminate a lot of extended D-zone shift. I think the more we have the puck, the better it will be, and the more offense we can play.
Thanks, Mike.
Some of these games that we've had lately, you don't treat enough in that way. That's a really, really hard team to come back on and come back from down 2 goals, especially the way the second goal happened. And then for that line to go back, get it same shit basically was kind of set the tone. So I think we've got a lot of belief, there's a lot of fight, there's ability to handle adversity within the group. There's a togetherness that we clearly do not have.
Was that in evidence too, coming back from, you were winless in 3 coming back from the previous trip and went out and took care of business against Montreal?
Yeah, I think the Tampa-Dallas was a tough back-to-back. The Philly game, end of a road trip, I think we played all right. And it's always those overtime losses are so tricky because you say, oh, you're winless in 3, but now you're going to include that game and saying we've got 7 of 8 points. So those overtime losses can be really tricky one way or the other. But we had a couple bad games. It's gonna happen. We've been playing really good since Christmas, and I think this is a really important trip to gain a little bit more momentum, go into the break feeling good about ourselves, and then get ready for this sprint.
Do you feel like that kind of belief you were talking about can be built in practice, or does that sort of have to be based on getting the results in advance?
I think at the end of the day, it can start in practice. It can start with the effort. It can start with the pace and intensity that we have. But ultimately, the results are gonna dictate whether you have momentum or not. And, you can play good and not win and still feel good about yourselves. But that can only last for so long, really. And if you are playing the right way, you're gonna get wins. So I would say it's probably started in practice and it's bled over to the games. But the games are the ultimate confidence builder.
The results, keep reinforcing. After the Tampa game, in Tampa, he 40 shots, but didn't like the quality of them. That to take that challenge and immediately go, because when you listen to him and do what he wants, the results.
Well, I think he's got a clear, concise message. He's in command. Everything on video makes total sense. He's the one doing the video every time, so he's got that presence. And I think, it's actually pretty insane. Before the break, I don't know if we had more shots than the other team once on the year, and since the break, I don't think we've lost a shot battle once. So that complete 180 is kind of a crazy turnaround, and I think that's kind of a message of his is get pucks to the net, get around the net, create more havoc, chaos in front. So I think everyone's bought in right now.
That assessment, he's obviously skated with us, which is a good sign, but likely not ready.
Tarasenko.
Vladdy was coming back from illness. He should be, unless something goes wrong after practice. But he looked good. He worked hard. Looked like he had energy, so I'm sure he'll be ready.
Will Kane come on the trip though?
Yeah.
Todd, I think it was during the previous trip you said something along the lines of teams having more respect for you. How do you gauge that?
Well, I think that when, everyone pays attention in the league, and when teams are elevated or when they're dipping a little bit, and sometimes teams look beyond an opponent and look to the next rivalry game or whatever it might be. The Winnipeg game was one where I thought maybe they weren't quite ready for us, especially in the first period, but then they played after that, and it was a good challenge for us. So I don't think we'll sneak up on teams. We're going to get their attention, and the players have earned that respect. But with that respect comes a lot of responsibility to respond and play properly.
Is Confer, will he make the trip, or is he?
I believe JT's making the trip too. Yep.
Petrie did skate today.
Petrie won't make the trip.
Looking back on the homestand as a whole, what do you hope carries over aside from the wins on this road trip coming up here?
I liked how hard we checked. We still had some breakdowns. They still got chances, but we committed to checking well. We didn't play a wide open game. And while we were doing that, we created some offense off of it. So we didn't just rely on our power play, which we had likely done earlier. It was more complete offensive game from everybody getting involved. Coming off the last road trip, obviously we weren't scoring much, so we challenged them to do a few things, and they applied some of it, and it worked.
Obviously you don't have as much control on the matchups on the road, but how do you approach trying to defend Connor and Leon?
Well, first of all, are they playing together or apart, and that can change at any moment. I had that luxury of coaching them, and the two of them are elite separately, and they're super elite together. They play a completely different game. One fast, one slows it down with passing and vision. They remind me of the Sedins, but they're not twins. They kind of share the same thought process. So 31 other teams try and figure out a way to slow them down for the past 10 years, and maybe the only team that solved it was Florida, and it took them to 7. But they're dynamic. They're going to get their chances. Goaltending is going to have to be important. We're going to have to stay out of the penalty box. There's some ways that you just defend without even playing, if that makes any sense. And but to think we're going in there to absolutely stop them and not give them anything, we'd be dreaming. They're that good. Okay.